Hi everyone, quick video here for you on looking at mirrorless cameras and what's available at the kind of what I call entry-level pro market. This come about really because I was out yesterday doing a one-to-one with someone, first day of a 3-day block training, with someone who's totally new to photography but's interested in getting into professional photography, but literally knows very, very little, hasn't even got a camera. And they're not even sure whether they will end up going professional, but would like to try. And for that reason, don't really want to spend a lot of money on a camera. So they've asked for my advice, and I've had people ask before for things like the compact cameras and things like that. And generally what I say with compact cameras, and we're talking amateur market, less than amateur market really, your friends and family, I generally say to them, don't go with a small sensor if you're looking at a so-called real camera, but don't go anything less than micro four thirds, because these really, really small chips in these cameras and these bridge cameras at high ISO and on massive zooms, which they offer, really the quality drops off quite a lot. And I generally say, well, just use your camera on your phone, and that's good enough for general people. For the serious amateur market and entry level amateur market, then yeah, micro four thirds. Don't go any less than that as well, and consider what you want to spend. Now, for going to like the early stages of pro or dipping your toes into professional photography from a point of zero, really, you still don't want to spend 4, 5, 6,000 pounds. We know how much some of these cameras can cost out there, but add lenses to that, and you could be close to eight to 10,000 pounds. And what if you don't carry on and become a professional photographer? So I've taken a look at some cameras that are kind of like £1,000 to £1,500. The reality is £1,000's a bit hard to do. We're talking body here and mirrorless. And really at the £1,500 mark, you've got the option of going second-hand. There's some great second-hand cameras out there that amateurs have kind of traded in and hardly being used. And amateurs always look after cameras very, very well compared to us professionals. Mine's got lots of scratches and dents and things on it, so we tend to treat those tools as a trade. So I've looked at mirrorless. It is the future. Even Canon and Nikon in recent years have kind of taken the head out of the sand and gone with mirrorless. So I've taken a look at some Canon, Nikon, Sony, and I've put Fuji, and I'm a Fuji photographer. I went with Fuji back in 2013 and went professional with Fuji 2014, just late 2014, back at 16 megapixels. And I'm not a pixel peeper, so that was more than enough. My first digital camera back in the early 2000s was 4 megapixels. Then went to 6 megapixels. I was doing 7-foot posters with 6 megapixels back then. And the first digital camera I ever saw was a Fuji S1 back in something like 2000, 2001, and it was the 3 megapixel that interpolated up to 6, and professionals were using it. So it's not always about pixels anyway. So I've put a chart together. I've spent a bit of time looking at what's available there, brand new, and I've also popped in some second-hand values for the bodies as well. And I've put an arrangement of typical lenses that I think you should be looking at as well. And there's going to be lots and lots of variations. Different people say different things, but really this is, just give you some options. I've also done an average lens price just to get an idea of how much the kit would cost on average with lenses against bodies as well. And where there's been kind of like kits available that include a lens, because you get that quite often, then I put a price of the body, if you take the price of a lens off, to get an idea of what value you're getting out of a lens and a body as well, being available from a camera shop. I've used Wex Photographic. I want to keep everything the same in the way of like stability of price. You will get prices cheaper. People use B&H if you're in America, and there are other options, throughout, as we know. So yeah, you can get cheaper, I'm sure. And I have put a good used price as well in this table. And before I go on to the table, what I will just say is that I was hoping to kind of say to myself, would I still choose a Fuji today? And I was Canon before, And all of these cameras will take good pictures. I shoot manual with exposure, so I'm not worried about loads and loads of things in the menu. All I want is something that will give me a good exposure, focus well, and it doesn't have to be the fastest focus in the world. I'm not shooting sports or animals in flight and that sort of thing. And good quality out of the lenses. I said lenses are important. I put in Canon and Nikon, was a bit disappointed, mainly because of the lens lineup. And we're talking, don't forget, bodies at around about 1,500 as well. You know, there are bodies available for a lot more than that with all of these. And I've put some Sony in as well. I quite like the Sony options, particularly the more expensive one that's in there, which is more than 1,500. And then I've put a couple of up-to-date Fuji as well, including the X-T5, and then something just a little bit below there. See how it looks. So I'll take you through the table, and it's interesting reading. Like I said, there's many more cameras out there, and I'm trying to get that kind of feel for the £1,500 mark within this table. Not everyone will agree, but I've tried to be as sensible as possible, taking a look at lenses coming into consideration as well. So let's take a look at this table. It won't take long. I'm not going to go through all the prices of the lenses, but just give you an overview of what's there and how I feel about it. Here we are on the spreadsheet, Mirrorless Pro entry-level cameras, and we have release dates along the top, details on some body and kits, and then further down here we've got full frame, APS-C, how many pixels, and then I've picked a few lenses just to look at some more popular ones, and I've put primes in as well because I like to shoot with primes more so than zooms. I've put a number of lenses listed purely because not all of the makes have all of the lenses, and that helps come up with an average lens price so we can compare lenses as well as body up here. So release date, main thing is to bear in mind you get some great deals on kind of like these entry-level prosumer, if you want to call them, cameras, but be careful with something like this. You know, that's getting on for 10 years old, and there's a great deal on this Mark II with a Zeiss TESS-RT style lens, 24-70 f4, £1,400 there. Sounds a great deal, but it is a bit long in the tooth, isn't it? It's 24 megapixels. It can take fantastic pictures on that sensor with an amazing lens, and if you're happy with that, and it's still around, because it's not going to be around for long, being so old, then yeah, pick that up for that. But a 10-year-old camera, have a think about that, because other things will come into effect when it comes to things like focusing speed, maybe what the viewfinder is like as well when you're looking at digital viewfinders. So have a think about that. I'd steer clear of things kind of like going beyond probably 5 years. So that release date is important, and for that reason I'd discount that out straight away. Where we have got a lens included, I try and make it as close as I can to really something like the 24-70, 24-105 f4. That's not easy. The reason these are in red is they don't do this in the RF options on the Canon mirrorless. And I think both Nikon and Canon really need to get their act together still. They had their head in the sand for so long, staying with DSLRs, and are well behind Fuji, Olympus, Sony, and even Panasonic and Lumix, because they had so much invested in DSLRs, and in particularly a huge, amazing lineup of EF lenses. And I just don't think they wanted to change. And I still don't think they want to change, because they're not offering a really extensive lineup of mirrorless lenses. They're relying on you buying the adapter, still using their EF lenses. All of this here, I'm looking at not using adapters, going with the mirrorless lenses more than anything else. I don't want big, large, old EF bulky lenses, and the same with Nikkels as well. We really want to try and go smaller and lighter with mirrorless as well. Sony are kind of like halfway in between, so they're producing superb lenses,
and we're talking with the Sony being full frame, so they're going to be a little bit larger as well anyway. But yeah, this is no excuse. Why do we want a 7.1 and a 6.3 and 6.3 lens here? The reason is because they're cheaper, and that does get reflected. But I want an f4 minimum, really, with something like this, which is what we're looking at along here. The difference being the Fujis, they are f4 minimum, but actually at the 18mm end, they're 2.8, so there's a little plus coming into play there. So bear that in mind, okay. The Nikon's got a 2470 f4, well done Nikon, but we'll come on to the rest of the problems with Nikon lenses as we go down. So that's body and kit lens price along there for comparison for you. And I've also put the body price, because you might not want these lenses that are up here. So buy a body and then go for the lenses that you want. There's the body price for comparison. And then I've also put if you do go with these lenses, what the body comes out at when you take into account this package, because the lens value, once that comes off, brings this down substantially here with the Z5, and a couple of £100 here and there with these other ones. The Mark IV A7 for some reason at Wex comes in slightly worse. I don't know what's going on there, but this is all from Wex prices, by the way, to keep things even. You're going to get deals elsewhere at other companies and different prices, so bear that in mind. I've also put in a used body price here as well, just that sometimes it might be worth looking at used, particularly if they're in good condition. I've gone for kind of like excellent condition for these where I can, not poor quality used ones. It's worth looking at it, but sometimes there's not that much of a difference. You might be looking at £200, £300, £400, and you've got to say to yourself, shall I just bite the bullet and pay for the new option? Particularly when there's a kit lens included, that's worth taking into account. So all full frame apart from the Fujis, which are APS-C, and this R7 here as well. I did look at the R6 because it was a question that came up with a deal at Jessop's when I was with this person yesterday, but that is being discontinued. I think Jessop's might have already taken it offline within a day or so. So bear in mind anything that's coming up discontinued as well. Megapixels here, they're all good. 24 is plenty for megapixels. I'm not a pixel peeper, and use your sensor to its fullest if you can. Never try and crop any more than 25% away from your sensor. So try and maximize these, and they should all be up even after a bit of cropping at 20 megapixels. The ones in blue, yeah, well, you're getting some extra pixels, and make use of them if you're going with these, and worth considering. Look, X-T5, 40 megapixels, we're into the realms of £1,000 if you have that lens with it. It's £1,000 camera there for 2022, 40 megapixels. Then let's take a look at just what else is down here in the way of lenses. I'm not going to go through all of these and prices, but a 2470 f4, but a 2.8 option is there as well. Unfortunately, in the RF lens range on Canon, they don't do a 2470 f4. You're stuck with these horrible lenses up here. Big reason why I'm discounting these. I'm discounting Nikon and Canon because of their ridiculous prices on these lenses as well. It's just crazy. Even when you look at kind of like the Sony lenses, including the FE Gs and GMs, don't be worried about these low prices on Fujis. I wouldn't be shooting with Fuji lenses unless they were good quality lenses. These lenses are up there with professional lens quality of the Canon L lenses. They are just amazing value for money. But looking down the Nikons here, they have got some good lenses, but look at the prices they're expecting you to pay. 50mm 1.8 Z, £599, £600. The EF version, I mean, you can pick those up, the EF versions for about, I think, £120, something like that. This is outrageous, these lens prices here. I really do think that's way over the top. And look at what you can get with Sony 50mm 1.8, and the 35mm f2, they don't do a 1.8 in Fuji, but these are weather resistant, so a little bit more for that reason. None of these mirrorless lenses come in 50mm 1.4, so you're stuck at the 1.8 there, but there are options here. A couple of T-star lenses as well, but well, prices there on those. quite a lot. One of my favourite primes, more so than a 70-200 zoom, is the 100mm 2.8. So I've tried to match those up as close as I can. The main difference being that the Fuji is actually a macro, which pushes it up a little bit more, but it's still the lowest price, and it's a 2.4 rather than 2.8 option as well there. But the 100mm, when I was shooting weddings, that was my favourite, more so than the 70-200. It was lighter. It was the old Canon EF Mark 1, which wasn't an L lens, but it was better than any of my Canon L lens zooms. I could see that quality when I was reviewing pictures on screen, and that always stood out as an amazing quality lens. If you're into your Canon EF lenses, look for a Mark 1, not the L lens, and get one of those second-hand outstanding lenses. And I have put the 70-200. People do like that. There's a really, really popular lens, the 2.8, as is the f4, which is, you know, generally where you're looking at with these kind of longer zooms. So I think they're all, yeah, they're all kind of like, even that APS-C is a 70-200 2.8. So you've got a good list there. I've actually put the number of lenses listed from the manufacturers because that's important, and that's going to give us an average lens price, which I think is a really, really important figure, because over time you're going to build up some lenses hopefully, and you might start with this and think, well, I only want to spend, you know, let's say, you know, 1,500 or thereabouts. If you average these out, you say that's all I've got to spend at the moment, so I'm going to go with, you know, this one here or this one here. This is coming in a little bit higher. Maybe you're going to go for something like the Z5 here. But you will add to these lenses, you will add to this body and lens if you buy this kit. So an average price, I think, is really important. And when you look at that, I know they look cheap, the Fuji lenses, but they're good quality lenses. Think about this long term and look at the Sonys. Still, I think that's a really, really good price. These, I think, are outrageous. Okay, and that's why my personal opinion is I would today buy either Sony or Fuji. You've then got to come back to these ones and say, what's the big difference? Well, full frame. If you really want full frame, I would suggest going with Sony. If you haven't got this sort of money to spend here on the Mark IV, if you're kind of looking at for a body of about £1,500, then the A7 Mark III I think is great value still. Okay, great lens, 24 megapixels, full frame. You've still got that extensive lens lineup, no different from the Mark IV A7. Okay, if you can push another £1,000, well, it's not £1,000, is it? It's less than that. But if you can push a bit more, I would certainly look at the Mark IV. Okay, it's 2021 as opposed to 2018. Two great cameras there, and as I said, a great lens lineup as well. If you're not worried about full frame, and I certainly am not, I am happy with the quality from all of the Fuji lenses. If I want a little bit more shallow depth of field and bokeh coming into play, I work with the primes, and the primes are outstanding and at good prices as well. And if you are a little bit price conscious, and I don't go for Fuji because I'm price conscious on lenses, I'm all about quality. I'm also about going smaller and lighter these days as I'm older, then that's why I go with Fuji. Would I stay with Fuji today, or would I shoot with Sony? Well, I think if I was, you know, starting out and young and definitely going pro, I might well go with Sony. Full frame. It's a bit bigger and bulkier and heavier, but it's not as bad as the old days of DSLRs. Maybe I would go that way. These days, small and light. Yeah, today I'd be looking at these two cameras. Which one would I buy? There's no doubt the X-T5 is the better camera. And if we look at this from a point of view of down here, we're talking about £300. Yeah, I would buy the X-T5. But if I'm really a little bit more price conscious, the XS20, that's still a fantastic camera. And you've just then got to weigh up whether you want 40 megapixels or 20 megapixels. They're both going to take really, really superb pictures. I hope that's been of help. This is just my opinion only, and we're talking around that £1,500 price bracket range. Go second hand, you're going to get closer to 1,000 and less there. And that's worth considering, okay? I know you're all going to have very, very different opinions. Apologies to all the Olympus users out there, but I'm looking at, like I say, entry pro level. I really want best noise to sensor ratio, and for me, Micro Four Thirds doesn't quite cut it. I know there are professionals out there using them, but that's just my opinion. Olympus are fantastic cameras as well, superb quality lenses in their pro range, but this is where I would go, recommending for pro entry level, like I say, at that 1500 price point really on a body. Hope that's of help. If you've got any other opinions yourself on that, bear in mind the price point, bear in mind the lens lineup, bear in mind not using adapters, but I know some of you will be happy doing that, but those EF lenses in particular start to put weight and size into the equation as well. Many thanks.